Endgame is out, the trailers have got some lies in them, and the leaked footage was real. I'll be talking about spoilers in Endgame here, so be warned, spoilers ahead. In the trailers, there were some scenes I don't think were quite in the film, but the main differences were Scarlett Johansson's hair. So they actually digitally changed her hair from being the short blonde or the longer red hair to be different from actually in the film. So they were trying to put people off by trying to guess, oh, is this later on in the film or is this earlier in the film? And there were some bits where I noticed, they've actually changed that from the trailers. One particular one was the trailer where Ant-Man rocks up at the Avengers base and Captain America says something like, is that old footage? And a very clearly blonde Scarlett Johansson says, no, that this is live, this is right now. In the movie, no, she's got red hair, it's from later on. So there's a few things like that. So they are trying to keep people off with the trailers. This isn't new, but it is something they are actually doing. They also lied a bit. I believe the directors came out and said all the trailers have footage from only the first 20 minutes. That is not true at all. There is some footage from the very end of the film, or very near the end of the film. There's a scene where Hawkeye is in some sort of corridor. It looks kind of dark and kind of red, and he shoots a arrow down the hallway, and it actually sort of explodes, and he jumps and stuff. That is from the end battle at the end of the movie, so that is most definitely not in the first 20 minutes, but quite a lot of it is just the first 20 minutes, so that's true. I'd say at least the first hour anyway. I wasn't really timing it, but the first hour is definitely where the vast majority of all of the footage is from. I have a non-spoiler review, I guess I might link it to the end, and in that I said that I think the film is somewhere between okay and good, and I was kind of on the fence, wasn't sure. I've thought about it a little bit more. I'd say that the film is good, okay? I did not like it as much as I liked Infinity War. I think Infinity War is a better film, but I still say this is a good film, okay? So a little bit up from saying maybe it's not quite good, maybe it's just okay. I still think it's worth seeing, okay? People should go see it if they've seen Infinity War. Obviously, if you don't like Infinity War, yeah, don't watch this. This cannot bring new people on board. It's a sequel to that. But if you saw Infinity War and didn't mind it or liked it, you will not mind or like this, okay? So it's a conclusion to it. I don't think this would really put people off, if you like. Again, if you don't like Infinity War, well, you won't watch this. This film will not change your mind. The main problem I had with the film really was the length. The length of the film and some of the stuff at the end and some of the stuff at the start. That was really it. The middle of the film, the big middle chunk of the film I thought was good. The start of the film I thought was quite slow, and I wouldn't go so far to say boring, but I think a lot of it could have been chopped and sped up. At the end, I had a few problems with some of the stuff at the end, but the big chunk in the middle, I thought that was good, okay? Now, I'm not saying the end wasn't a satisfying end. It was a satisfactory end to the series, if you like. It's not really a true end, but it's pretty much an end. But I did have a few problems with some of the stuff at the end. But the things at the start, the film was very slow to get into. So at the start of the film, the first scene has got Hawkeye teaching his daughter how to shoot a crossbow, shoot a bow and arrow. And then she gets dusted and his family gets dusted, and then he's sort of angry later on. That stuff's in the trailers where I think he's called Ronin now or whatever, and he's got a samurai sword and he's chopping people up. And all of that, it established that he's a good dad and he really likes his family, but that's already assumed, okay? I don't think it really had to be in the film. The film felt like some sort of family drama sort of type film. Just from that point on, it was very slow going, so I don't think that really was a good way for me to start it off. Now, if you're a big Hawkeye fan, maybe that's stuff you love. Okay, and there's a lot of things like this in the film where I think if you are a hardcore MCU fan, there's a lot of big nods to you. This is who the film's been made for. So we've got 22 films before this one. This is being created as a big nod to the people that know all those 22 films and really know them and really like the characters. If you haven't seen all of the films, or if you don't really have a good memory of some of the films, there are parts in this film where you might be, I'm not really sure what's happening here or what's going on. So this film, not only does it have a lot of callbacks to the things you might know, they travel back in time to scenes from the other films. So they're actually in those films, and you get to see the actors from the films from that point of view, seeing them in the present from the present day people. So again, not only are they callbacks, they're literally going back in time, and you get to see these sort of major scenes. So again, if you're not as familiar with the other films, if you don't have a good memory of the other films, if you don't like some of the other films, those scenes aren't going to do anything for you. Whereas if the opposite's true, if you really like that stuff, you'll love this film. Okay, again, I think this film will have a lot of 5-star reviews. I think there'll be a lot of people genuinely saying this is their best film they've ever seen. And they're not just lying to whatever, just build it up to be bigger or to try to outdo other people's reviews. You know, if someone puts a 0 in, you need to put 100 in to counteract it, that sort of stuff. I think they'll be quite genuine. So I think there'll be a lot of MCU fans that really love this film. Now, for someone who's maybe not an MCU fan, I don't know if I'd call myself an MCU fan. I do like quite a lot of their films, but fan goes a bit far for me. The film's good. I like the film. It's not great for me, though. I thought there was too much fan service. So someone who the film clearly isn't made for. This is a fan service film. This is made for true fans. This is made for fanatics. It's made for hardcore fans. I wouldn't call myself one of those. There's bits I think could be cut. It's longer than it needed to be, I think, for a general audience that's not as invested in the characters. For someone that's invested in the characters, you could probably complain the film's not long enough. Okay, they can probably not do as much as you'd like. If you really like a character, you may think things have gone too slow here, even after 3 hours. So I don't think everyone will ever be fully satisfied, but I do think there's a lot in here for the true fans, the big fans, the main fans to really, really like. So it feels to me like they've done the exact opposite of Star Wars. Star Wars feels to me like they're sticking a finger up at people that might call themselves hardcore fans, and that Kathleen Kennedy or whoever else is making stuff down there at Star Wars is basically saying, we don't care about you, we're going to do our own thing. This feels like the exact opposite. This feels like the Russo brothers and I guess Feige and whoever else down there said, let's give something the fans want. And it's probably going to get criticism from non-fans. Okay, non-fans are going to go, well, this is a very fanny servicey film. It is, and I think there's a fair argument to say, well, this is it's been 22 films, why wouldn't it be? So why wouldn't this be very full of fan service? So it has got an extreme amount of fan service, and maybe it should have an extreme amount of fan service. Now, other than the start of the film, I thought was pretty slow going until it really got into it. I didn't like Captain Marvel in this either. Okay, so I didn't like the Captain Marvel movie, and nothing in here made me like Captain Marvel. I hoped maybe a lot of the Captain Marvel movie was bad because of the writing and the direction and the editing, but this is just what the character is, unfortunately. So, if you like Captain Marvel, you've got the same character here. Okay, so there's probably a lot to like. What you won't like about this film, if you like Captain Marvel, she's hardly in it. And again, conversely, if you don't like Captain Marvel, she's hardly in this film. So when she is in the film, I just didn't like. I don't like her character, the flat pan, no emotions, and can blow everything up. She has no weaknesses and has ultimate power. Just isn't interesting to me. I also don't think she needed to be in the film, at least at the very start. So the start of the film, or near the start of the film, we've got Tony Stark, we've got Nebula, they're on board the ship. We've seen that in the first trailer, and they're dying. And this glowy thing approaches the ship, and it's Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel picks up the ship and flies it back to Earth, and that's where they land, where you see all the green grass and stuff, and he hugs Pepper Potts, and Nebula comes out and grabs Rocket's hand, and so on. That's where that scene is. So she actually grabs him and rescues him. So she rescues Iron Man. She then says, let's go kill Thanos. They all decide to go kill Thanos. Nebula knows where Thanos is. Tony Stark doesn't join them. They all go and fight Thanos, and basically she defeats Thanos by herself, but they all kind of join in, they grab an arm and a leg each, and Thor cuts off his arm, which I thought was very surprising. I thought, wow, that's not what I thought was happening. I thought Thanos was going to defeat them all. So Thanos gets his arm cut off, which has the gauntlet on, so he's not using the gauntlet, and he starts having a little bit of a chat to them, and he just cuts his head off. So Thor just cuts off Thanos' head. Bang, Thanos is dead. I thought Thanos would defeat them, and they had to go do some time traveling to beat him in the past because they couldn't beat him in the present day with the gauntlet. No, completely wrong. What Thanos has done is he's used the gauntlet again to destroy all the Infinity Stones, so he was in a weakened state. They kill him, but the gauntlet doesn't have the Infinity Stones anymore, so they can't undo the snap. And we get a 5-year gap. So that's where we get the whole Scarlett Johansson hair getting from the blonde to the red hair getting longer and shorter and so on. And it's 5 years, so there's a big 5-year gap. And again, it slows down a lot at that point. We get a lot of them dealing with the snap and all the deaths and so on, which I don't think matches the tone of all the other MCU films. Okay, maybe some people think it's a good way to go to do it realistic, because it is handled in a realistic manner. I mean, what would happen if half the people are dead? But I don't think all of the other MCU films are that realistic. I'm not saying they're unrealistic, but they are still superhero films. So for me, the tone of the start of the film with all the morbidity and so on, that I don't think matched what I thought the film would have. After that was all done, and maybe it's 40 minutes in, maybe it's an hour in, the film picked up for me, and that's what I would say is good. But the start of the film, I could personally do without pretty much the whole start of the film. Maybe the first hour, maybe it was the first 40 minutes, I'm not sure. But I thought it could do without that, and it is 3 hours long, so I wouldn't feel that bad if the film was only 2 hours 20. So, the basic plot is that Ant-Man returns from the quantum realm, which again, if you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, you'll know what's going on. If you haven't seen all these other films, you won't know what is going on anywhere, so the film, again, sort of needs you to have seen all these other films. That's who it's made for, and if you haven't seen the other films, you might be lost, and it doesn't apologize for that. It doesn't give you a little, hey, let me explain what happened over here. They're assuming you know your stuff, you know what's been going on in the MCU. So Ant-Man's back, it's been 5 years, but for him it's been like 5 minutes or 5 hours or something, and he devises a plan to time travel to undo the snap somehow, and they get Tony Stark on board. He's not very into it at first. He's now living with Pepper Potts, and he has a daughter, and he doesn't really want to mess up his life, but they get together and they build a time machine, basically. But because Hank Pym has been snapped away, they cannot make more of the Pym particle, the red stuff that makes the Ant-Man suit work, and the stuff they need to go into the quantum realm to time travel. So they've only got enough for, I think it's everybody to do one trip there and one trip back and a couple of extras, something like that. So they break into teams of 3, and Captain Marvel has left 5 years early. She said, I've got to go to other areas of the galaxy. So Captain Marvel's not in this part of the film. And again, if you like Captain Marvel, she's not in the film a lot. So, she's in the film quite a bit at the very start, and I don't think she should be. And then she does pop her head up right at the end. But for most of the film, no Captain Marvel, just these sort of core Avengers and Rocket and, a couple of the other guys. So anyway, they break into like 3 teams, and they got to go back to different points in time where they know the Infinity Stones were. So they're going to go back in time, steal the Infinity Stones from where they knew there were Infinity Stones, put them together into a gauntlet that Tony's making, going to undo the snap. So that's the new plan. So because the Infinity Stones don't exist in their time anymore, they're going back in time to get the stones. And that's what the white suits are for that you see in a lot of those trailers are all wearing the white suits. So you basically go back to different scenes that were already in the other films. So, for example, some of them go back to the original Battle of New York from the first Avengers film. They go back there to try to get the Tesseract, before it gets locked away somewhere after the battle. A couple of them go to the planet they're on. I think it's called Morag at the start of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where Quinn's doing his little dance along to his headphones, and he's sort of kicking the little animals out of the way and doing that kind of stuff. They kind of see him do that, and they got to knock him out and grab the Infinity Stone that they get in the Guardians of the Galaxy before he gets it, and so on. So that's basically what they're doing, and it's some funny scenes and stuff, and they got to interact with their old self. There's a scene which I'm not sure if it was in a trailer. I don't think it was. I think it was actually in the leaked footage where you get Captain America running across Captain America, and the older Captain America thinks the other guy, because he looks the same as Loki, so he assumes it's Loki in disguise, and then they have a bit of a fight, and obviously the new Captain America beats the old one and gets the stone off him, or whatever it is he had. I think it was the staff at the time he was trying to get off him. Yeah, the staff that the Mind Stone was in eventually. I think that's what they we're getting at that point in time. And so that's what you get a lot of. So a lot of the film is that it's going back to these scenes that you may be familiar with if you're fans of the series. If you're not fans of the series, they may still be enjoyable scenes, but probably not to the same extent. Okay, in fact, I think it wouldn't be to the same extent. So it may be interesting, but it's really, hey, here's this film, here's that film, here's this bit from this film, and so on. So that's a lot of the stuff that you actually get. Thor is gotten fat over 5 years. He's doing a lot of drinking. He's pretty depressed. He ends up traveling back to Asgard to go get one of the stones. I'm a bit hazy on what exactly happened in one of the Thor films. I only watched them once. I really didn't like them. I think it was A Dark World, but whatever happened to Natalie Portman's character, she had some stuff on her, and maybe that was associated with a stone. I was marginally lost there in the film, and I've seen all these films, but they had to suck out some stuff out of her where she's unconscious, and so he's back in time whenever that film took place, and he runs back into his mother, and it's like the day before that she dies. I guess she dies in that film. I don't remember that, but so he kind of has a reunion with her before she's dead, and yeah, that sort of stuff. So again, if you're a fan of the MCU, if you're a fan of all of these different scenes in different movies, this has got all the stuff you'll like. Okay, you've got all of these different things you'll like. I think it'll make a lot of people go see the film multiple times. Okay, but at the same time, I don't think the film rises to being a very good film for a normal audience to go see again. Okay, so this film itself, I don't think is going to bring on board new people. Okay, I'm not saying it was ever supposed to, but there's not going to be someone that doesn't really like the MCU and then see this film and go, oh, this is a good film. Okay, this is made purely for MCU fans. and there's a lot of them out there, and then the general audience will see this as well, and a lot of them will say, yeah, the film's fine. I think they'll go, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. But it's not made for them, really. Okay, I don't want to rip off Brie Larson. The film wasn't made for you. This film's made for MCU fans, and they'll love the film, I'm sure. Now, again, can't please everyone. I'm sure there's lots of fans that'll be, how come this didn't happen? How come that didn't happen? But in general, I think you should be fairly satisfied with this film if you are what you might call a hardcore MCU fan. Now, to delve into some of the more major spoilers, I've given away the plot of the film, but not really some of the meat of it. They have to go and get the Soul Stone, and so Ronan, or maybe he's still called Hawkeye and the Black Widow, they go together to Vormir, I think is the name of the planet. It's in Infinity War, where they have to get the Soul Stone, and they're given basically the same option. This is how you get the Soul Stone. You have to give up something you love to get the Soul Stone, so basically one of them has to get chucked over the edge of the cliff and die, and the other one gets the stone. And so they then fight, but it's obviously a reverse fight. They're not fighting to throw the other one off the cliff. They're fighting to stop the one throwing themselves off the cliff, and they're trying to throw themselves off the cliff. And essentially, I guess it comes down to the fact that Hawkeye has a family that they're trying to get undusted, so he's got something to live for, whereas the Black Widow doesn't really have a family, and whether that's the real conclusion or not, she's the one that gets fallen down. So they're fighting to see who dies. Black Widow wins, in quotes, she wins by killing herself, and so Hawkeye gets the Soul Stone that way. And so she's dead, and she's seemingly really, really dead, as they explain in the film. Now, anything can happen in later films, but she's gone. So I was really surprised they killed her off. I did not think Black Widow would die. I expected Captain America was going to die. I hoped Captain Marvel was going to die. I thought there was a good chance that Iron Man was going to die, only because Robert Downey Jr. has been very reluctant to play Iron Man a lot. Okay, he gets paid a lot of money, but he's not done an Iron Man film for a while. He just likes being in the films with the other characters, so he doesn't have to do a lot of work. So I thought, good chance he's dead. I thought, good chance Captain America's dead. Hoped Captain Marvel would die. Didn't even think that Black Widow was on the cards. I thought they were going to make a film. I thought there was going to be a Black Widow film. So she's gone. No Black Widow film. There were people I could hear crying in the audience. There were cries. There was some sniffling going on. There was some noise coming out of people. So there were certain points in time, I guess mostly when people were dying. That's when people were having a bit of a cry, but sort of some of the reunion stuff as well. Maybe some people were crying out. So there were very emotional people. There were people invested in this. And again, those people, yeah, they're probably coming back to see it again, and maybe again and again. So there are people, again, I think will really love this film. I don't know what percentage of the population that is, though, so I don't know what that'll do for the film's total amount of money, but this certainly appeals to some people a lot. And so, while they're time traveling, it seems that Nebula somehow can communicate with her previous Nebula, or evil Nebula, if you like. So the new Nebula was a bit caring towards Tony when he was dying in the ship, and, you know, she's sort of friends with Gamora, although Gamora's kind of dead. So she's kind of a better person than she was. It's good Nebula. Well, we've got bad Nebula back in the past still, and when they travel back in the past, somehow there's some communication-y thing, and her little projection thing in her head, which you would have seen in Infinity War, that sort of plays her memories, it plays her memory from where they're saying, oh, we need to steal the stones to stop Thanos. And so Thanos sees that, Thanos in the past, Thanos is still alive, and this is Thanos before he's got any of the stones yet, and he sort of puts it together, well, hang on, so I obviously got all the stones, did the snap, it worked, and these people are now going back in time to stop me. And so that, I guess, is where the opposition comes, because up until that point, well, Thanos is dead, and all they're doing is going back in time and having a good time, really. There's no threat at all. There's just, here's some old scenes, we're going to pick up these stones, but no one's really to fight as such. So Thanos is kind of back now, and he wants to, sort them out. So basically what happens is they capture Nebula in the past, good Nebula, and they substitute her with evil Nebula. I think one of her face plates on her face is a little bit different, so they rip that off and put it on the evil Nebula, and evil Nebula travels back to the present in her place, and then she activates the time machine and pulls through Thanos' ship. I'm not 100% sure if they had enough Pym particles to do that, or whatever the science is for that, but that's what happens. So she pulls Thanos from the past with his entire spaceship and his army, and he pulls them on top of the Avengers base. And so at the point in time when the Avengers are all back and they've assembled their gauntlet and they're about to undo the snap, they undo the snap, and then their base gets smashed apart by the spaceship that Thanos has brought, and Thanos' army descends down and starts killing a lot of people. And then a little bit after that, when it looks like it's really, really bleak and he's got them horribly outnumbered, there's a lot of the orangey portals that Doctor Strange makes, the magic portals, they all start opening up all over the place. And all of the people that were unsnapped by the previous stuff that unsnapped them, they're getting teleported into the fight by Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange teleports in all of the now not dead people, or the dusted people that had remotely anything to do with the Avengers, and there is just a massive battle going on between all of the Avengers, people, the Joaquin, what they're called, Wakandans. The Wakandans armies there, the Wakandans bring their spaceships, or maybe there's airplanes, they're futuristic airplanes, and they're fighting Thanos' stuff. And so it's just a massive battle going on. There's stuff going on all over the place. This is a part you might need to see the film a couple of times to even know what is going on. It's just got mayhem all over the place, lots of action. So this, again, may be a scene that would blow people's minds that really, really like the MCU. Maybe they didn't expect something like this. And this could be something that there'll be people raving about. Oh my god, I can't believe the end of the film. So that's what happens. I don't know what else they could have done really instead of this, but lots and lots and lots of action, lots and lots of people fighting all kinds of aliens. And as the fight at the end starts going a bit bleak, Thanos is still kind of beating everybody up. Captain America picks up Thor's hammer, so I won't attempt to pronounce its name, but Captain America shows that he's worthy and he picks up the hammer. And that was another point. There was a bit of audible noise from the audience. There was a bit of intake of air. There was a kind of noise going on. So that was something a lot of people appreciated, that he's finally worthy of wielding Thor's hammer. And I think Thor nodded his head and goes, I knew it, or something like that as well. A little nod that, yeah, I think he was worthy. So Thor's wielding his axe. At some points in the film, he's got the axe and the hammer. And he gets the hammer when he goes back in time. So when he's back in time and he's trying to get the whichever stone it is out of Natalie Portman's blood or whatever's going on there, he actually calls the hammer forth and grabs the hammer. So I don't know how that works out with, the timeline, because the Thor back in the past now doesn't have a hammer. But, time travel's a problem. Time travel with films is a big problem. But he steals old Thor's hammer, or young Thor maybe, the previous Thor's hammer. He's got the hammer. So he's wielding both the hammer and the axe. And then Captain America ends up having his shield and the hammer. And he has a bit of a fight with Thanos, with both of them. And, Thanos defeats him. Still, Thanos smashes up his shield with Thanos has got this big kind of double-edged sword thing. And he smashes up the shield made out of that. Was it vibranium or whatever it is, the indestructible stuff? Well, Thanos has got some more indestructible stuff and smashes that apart. And then we find out who the strongest Avenger is, and she's not happy. The Scarlet Witch is back. She's undusted. Vision is not back. Vision didn't get dusted. He got his head crushed in by Thanos. Thanos ripped the Mind Stone out of his head in Infinity War, and he's not back. So the unsnapping just got rid of all the dusted people. It did not magically bring other people back to life. And she's not happy, and she basically defeats Thanos by herself. She chucks stuff at her, she does all the red stuff, she starts crushing him to death, crushing his armor on himself, and Thanos ends up calling his ship to fire down at all the people downstairs, all of his own men and stuff. So Thanos actually ends up destroying a massive part of his army. Most of the quote-unquote good guys are covered by Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange's buddy's shield. I think Wong is his name. And they're shielding up all the people. But what happens is Scarlet Witch kind of gets hit a bit and it saves Thanos. But Thanos was basically defeated one-on-one by the Scarlet Witch when she could just use her magic from a distance. So that was interesting. But then it looks like there's no one left to really beat Thanos. He's beaten everybody up, and a big meteor comes down, and I thought, she's back. She's back. She's missed all of the film. She's back now, Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel rocks up right at the end, and she starts to go to town on Thanos, and I just thought, she's not been in the whole film, and she's the one that's going to kill Thanos. I thought, you can't be serious. Is this really what you're doing? You're going to have Captain Marvel just rock up and just kill him. But no, she doesn't kill him. She does not kill Thanos. She grabs the gauntlet off him. He's got the gauntlet at this point in time. She grabs the gauntlet in his hand, and she's strong enough to stop him closing his hand. So she's stronger than Thanos. Thanos punches her in the head, and she doesn't even move. She just cannot take damage, cannot be moved, completely invincible. But Thanos then rips the purple stone off the gauntlet. I think that's the Power Stone. And it may be the blue stone, but I think it was the purple one. And he has that in his other hand. He punches her in the head with that, and that sends her flying. And I don't think we see her again. I kind of hope she was dead, but she wasn't. I think she may rock up at the very, very end of the funeral. But, that gets rid of her as well, so that sort of sorts her out. And then it comes down to Iron Man fighting Thanos. So they have a little bit of a fight. Iron Man grabs the gauntlet while it is still on Thanos. They have a bit of a struggle, and Iron Man comes away without the gauntlet. Thanos then holds up his hand, snaps his fingers, and nothing happens. And he has a look at the back of the gauntlet, turns his arm around, and there are no stones on the gauntlet. And we then cross to Tony Stark, and he's got all the stones. So maybe that was his new plan he just came up with, or maybe he was thinking about that for 5 years. Why didn't they just grab one of the stones off the gauntlet when they had him under control in Infinity War instead of trying to get the entire thing off his hand? But he now has got all the stones. He puts them on his Iron Man suit hand, whether that was already going to be a gauntlet earlier, I missed that in the film if it was, or if he just reconfigures it with all the nano stuff he has. It's not very clear, but he probably just reconfigures it. He snaps his fingers, and he causes all of Thanos' army to get dusted, and Thanos gets dusted and is destroyed. So we've got both Iron Man dead and the Black Widow dead. I really thought Captain America would be the one to die. I thought he would sacrifice himself doing something like that, but nope, it was Iron Man. So if Iron Man has to go, he didn't go out in a cheap way, so that's good. But again, I would prefer to see another Iron Man film or another film with him in it, but that's not going to happen. But he went out like a hero, so I'm sure there'll be many Iron Man fans glad. Again, probably not glad because he's dead, you're not going to see him again, but glad that he went out that way. And at that point, I actually looked at the time, and there was 35 minutes left until the end of the film, which I think was to the end of the credits. So there was about 35 minutes left until the credits ended. Maybe there was 10 minutes of credits or something like that. So it was about 25 minutes of just, everyone's dead or these people are dead and who's going to lead things, what's going to go on in the future. So there's a fair bit of what you might call, again, fan service towards the end of the film. The conclusion's very quick. Like Infinity War didn't have too much. Thanos escaped and a few people got dusted and you're done. Well, here they dusted the enemy, but they didn't just cut away there. So there's a lot of stuff, and they actually have a funeral at the end, and everybody's at the funeral and so on. And you see that Nick Fury is there. That is all he's in the film for. He's just in a very, very slight bit of a scene at the end. He may be CGI. They might not have even got him to rock up for all I know. But he's just on a balcony kind of looking down, and he's back alive. But he doesn't even say a word, I don't think. So he's barely in this film. They had the kid from Iron Man 3 at the funeral. I only know what he looks like because I actually looked on IMDb last week to see who was in the film. And he was a name I didn't recognize, and I clicked on it, and it's the little boy from Iron Man 3, and he's obviously a lot older now because the film was a few years ago, and he was young, so he's older. He's at the funeral, so I guess that's a little Easter egg that a lot of people might not pick up on. He doesn't say a word. He's just a guy standing at the back of the funeral, and so, he's there. Okay, that's a bit strange, but I only know that just by happenstance that I happened to see his picture on IMDb very recently. So in the aftermath, Thor gives up the rulership of the Asgardians to the Valkyrie. So he's basically retired from that. And it looks like he's joined the Guardians of the Galaxy crew. So it looks like Thor is out of the Avengers. He may pop up if there is another Avenger film. But it looks like he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy number 3. Gamora is not brought back to life. She's dead in the Soul Stone like the Black Widow, but Gamora from the past is with Thanos when Thanos travels forward in time to make the attack. So there is a new Gamora, younger Gamora, slightly younger Gamora. She's there, and she's now trapped in this time, and she sort of buddies with Nebula, and I guess she joins the Guardians of the Galaxy, except she doesn't really know any of them. So I guess that'll be a different dynamic there if she's in the next Guardians of the Galaxy film. But she's kind of, she's alive, but it's not the same Gamora. So Gamora does not come back. It looks like if you go to the Soul Stone, you don't come back. So Black Widow's not back, and Gamora is not back from there, but there is a Gamora in the film. There's a lot of time travel stuff. They make some references to other films that do time travel, and particularly Back to the Future. And yeah, like anything like this with time travel, there are holes everywhere. So you can pick apart all kinds of problems with the film because of the time travel stuff, and you can time travel at different periods of time. But I think one of the more major ones is Nebula kills her previous self. So her older self, evil Nebula, is going to shoot young Gamora, the Gamora that we have alive, and new Nebula, or good Nebula, is there, and good Nebula shoots evil Nebula and kills evil Nebula. So, that's a bit of a time paradox. She's killed herself in the past and so on. But she doesn't disappear or anything like that. But again, with time travel stuff, there's too many questions. It's too hard to make up the rules that would satisfy everybody. But there are obviously massive plot problems with any time travel. And what they had to do to sort their time travel-y stuff out was they said that they had to take all the stones and then give the stones back when they're done at the same point in time, and so that no one will actually know the stones were removed from the past. So it seemed a bit like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, a little bit, or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, whichever one they sort of muck around with more time travel than the other one. But that's what they have to do, and they end up giving all the stones to Captain America at the very end, and he says, "All right, I'll go do this," and they're like, "Okay, you'll be back in 5 seconds." He disappears and he doesn't come back, and then they look over their shoulder, and there's some guy sitting on a rock, and they're outside, and they go up to this guy sitting on a rock or a bench, and it's a really old Captain America, and it turns out that when he went back in time, he didn't want to come back. So he basically stayed back in time. He looks like he married Peggy Carter from the first film, the one that had her own TV series, Agent Carter. And now he's old. He's just grown old, and I guess he's decided to remember the date and walk back here at this point in time so that they'll know what's going on. And that's him. He's done. He's not dead, but he's really, really old. So Captain America's finished. Iron Man's dead. Black Widow's dead. Thor's retired, or Thor's at least leaving the Earth. Okay, so Thor's probably not going to be an Avenger anymore. They're all gone. I think that's a big problem moving forward. The Avengers have basically got Captain Marvel and a whole pile of people that haven't had their own film. I don't know what that's going to do for the next Avenger film, if and when something like that happens, or I don't even know what films they're going to have planned. I know they have a Black Panther 2 planned. I'm sure they'll make a Captain Marvel 2. I don't think it's planned yet, but I'm sure that will happen. As for the rest of them, what are they doing in this phase? So they've got all kinds of new things to try to get to. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy is still going, so that'll still be popular. But as for the Avengers are gone, basically. So the old Avengers are gone. You've got, of the 6 original cast members, you've still got Hawkeye and you've got Hulk. So Hawkeye's never had his own film, and Hulk's had the worst performing film. So I can't see those two getting their own films. So I'm not sure what the way forward is now, basically. But it looks more bleak than what it's been, but it's been really good. So it's got to be hard to maintain that forever, but it could be wrong. Maybe the new stuff will be really, really good as well. As for the social justice-y stuff, or the intersectional stuff, I'm sure it'll be brought up quite a bit. Most of the film doesn't have any, I noticed, but the end of the film has got it. It just pops up, it's very in your face, and you go, oh, they've put this in here. So it looked like they had a quota to fill, or they had to put it in and someone forgot, and it just suddenly happened. So at one point in time in the last battle, Captain Marvel's got the gauntlet, she's got to protect the gauntlet, and Spider-Man says something like, oh, how are you going to protect that gauntlet? Which of course is ridiculous because she's so powerful. But then every single female remotely associated with the Avengers all pop their head up and say, we'll protect her, and there's a big girl power moment on screen. So it's got like the Wasp and the Scarlet Witch and the Wakandan Kingsguard lady, I'm not sure what her name is. It's got Nebula, all these people, they all pop up, and it's just females. It's just females on the screen. Captain Marvel's in the middle, and it's got a big girl power. And I just looked at that and went, oh my god, they've just, like, it's inserted so crudely. And then it finishes. You don't see that happen anymore. And went, oh, what happened here? So it looked like a very weird pickup shot that they put in at a strange position. And maybe they're going to make posters about this. Maybe there's going to be a trailer on it. But it looks very crudely inserted. So that is there. That'll get some criticism without a doubt, and it deserves criticism just because it looks silly, let alone they're pushing the whole, can't have men on the screen or whatever they're pushing their agenda. But the fact that it just looks so forced was very awkward. The other sort of social justicey thing, obviously, is they've killed off 3 white men. So they've got rid of Iron Man, they got rid of, they haven't killed him off, they got rid of Iron Man, Thor's basically gone, and they've got rid of Captain America. So Captain America gave his shield to the Falcon, so Falcon has got his shield now, so we've got a black Captain America now, so the intersectionalists, they'll tick that one off, excellent, we've got rid of a white man there. Iron Man's dead, we got rid of him. Pepper Potts might be the new Iron Man, she does have an Iron Man suit, but we'll see what happens there, but nonetheless, Iron Man is gone, another white man gone, and we've got Thor, which gave up his mantle of fronting the Asgardians to Valkyrie. So Valkyrie now has gotten rid of another white male. There's a black female taking over. So they've removed 3 white men. Thor's semi-removed. Maybe he isn't quite gone, but Thor's kind of gone. And they've replaced them with Valkyrie, the Falcon, and maybe Pepper Potts. So that part of the agenda is rolling on, and these may be the new Avengers. The new Avengers might be Carol Danvers or Captain Marvel, and I'm still not sure if anyone called her Captain Marvel in this film. I don't know if she's been called Captain Marvel in the Captain Marvel film, and I don't know if they called her Captain Marvel here. Very strange thing to be called Captain Marvel and no one ever calls you Captain Marvel. But we've got Captain Marvel, we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp, sort of, but they're not really with the Avengers, but they kind of fire in the series. We've got the Hulk, we've got Hawkeye, but maybe he's going to retire to his family. I think he probably will. So the Hulk really is the only original member left. We've got Captain Marvel, we've got Scarlet Witch, we've maybe got Thor, and we've got Valkyrie. So that is perhaps the new Avengers. I don't know how popular that'll be going forward, but that is what we're left with. So the Avengers are basically decimated. Will that decimate the fan base? Will fans want to watch as much without these people being in the films? I guess time will tell. So again, I didn't think it was quite as good as Infinity War, but I imagine the hardcore fans may be very satisfied with this. They may love this film. This may be their favorite film ever. I haven't actually looked online at any reviews at all that anyone else has put out there, or any percentages in any, like in Metacritic or anything like that, so I'm not sure what the general consensus really is, but I have a feeling that lots of people will love it. I don't think you'll get many negative reviews, because the only people that won't like this are the people that won't like Infinity War, and so they won't watch this. I mean, it makes sense. So it's going to be very few people, I think, that watch Infinity War, liked Infinity War enough to see its sequel, and then go, the sequel's bad. Okay? I might be the most negative person on the internet about it, and I know a lot of the stuff I've said here sounds very negative, but it's only because I'm not focusing on the good stuff as much. So I'm sure plenty of people focus on the good stuff. The film was good. You should see the film. There are problems with the film. There are things in the film I don't like, but I think a lot of people will love this film. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.